Hi everybody, let's talk about portable fire extinguishers, 29 CFR 1910-157. It's the 29th Code of Federal Regulations. 1910 indicates general industry, 157 the regulations for portable fire extinguishers. What we'll talk about today is types of the fire extinguishers, the fire triangle, types of extinguishers, how to use them, and the rules for the fires. So when we classify fires, we think about the different types of fires, whether it's a gas fire or a wood fire. They're broken out in types of A, B, C, and D. So when we talk about a Class A fire, we're looking at a wood fire, a paper fire, a plastic, or maybe even some rags, something you would normally be able to put out with water. But when we talk about a Class B fire, that's gasoline, oil, grease, paint, things of that nature. A good example is these are items you don't want to put water on, by the way. Here's a good example. If you've ever had a kitchen fire, maybe a frying pan caught on fire on the stove, and you turn to the sink and turn the water on, the fire just, it kind of spreads. It gets a lot larger, mainly because water really won't put it out. It will expand it. Then we talk about a C-class fire, electrical fires, which is office equipment, motors, switch gears, heaters, things of that nature, something you certainly don't want to put water on. You could get energized in a real hurry. So we looked at Class A, B, C, and D. So there's one other, it's Class D. Metals, it should be potassiums, sodiums, aluminum, magnesium, things of that nature. Something we probably don't see very often, but from time to time we will. These are things you probably have to smother out. And so what we talked about is the classes of A, B, and C. And the reason I say that is because if you look on your portable fire extinguisher that you have hanging in the office or maybe out in the warehouse or on the manufacturing floor, if you look down the side of it, it will probably say A, B, and C. The reason for that is that fire extinguisher will cover those three class fires. If we went to a D fire, we would probably use a little different fire extinguisher, which is probably not something we see very often. But let's talk about the fire triangle. If you will imagine a triangle, three sides, there's three things you have to have a fire: air, fuel, and heat. Now, there's no doubt we have to have oxygen to make the fire burn. You have to have something to start or something to burn, and then you have to have some kind of ignition source. So when we look at the triangle, we have fire, fuel, and heat. If you break out any leg of that fire extinguisher, then you no longer have a fire because you've taken one of the three components that's required for the fire to continue to burn. Now, there are different types. We talked about the ABCs, which is traditionally what we find. Then we see something that might be a D-class fire. There are a lot of different type fire extinguishers. There are foaming, they're spraying, there's some water. You don't see water very often. Used to, years ago, you would see a chrome fire extinguisher hanging on the wall, turned upside down. That was just a basic water fire extinguisher for the wood, paper, plastic type fires. But the old halons and all the things that we used to use, there's so many different types. For wood, paper, plastic, again, we would just use water, but your A-class, A, B, C class fire extinguisher would take care of that. Class B, the flammable liquids, and Class C, which would be the electrical fires. So A, B, C, and you're good for those three categories. D-class fire, again, a little different. We teach the PASS system. P-A-S-S, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Now, the easiest thing to remember, if you just remember the P-A-S-S, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep, it basically means to pull the pin to allow to be able to squeeze the handle. As long as that pin is in there, you can't squeeze the handle to start discharging the agent. Then you want to aim at the fire, aim at the base of the fire where everything is happening, not up in the flames. If you try to use your fire extinguisher up in the flames, it might knock the flames down, but it typically won't put the fire out. Everything is at the base of the fire. So you want to aim at the base, and if you aim at the fire extinguisher up in the flames, it'll just fly right through it. Then you want to squeeze. We've pulled, we've aimed, now we want to squeeze the levers here. That's what will pressurize the extinguisher and start spraying the agent out. And then at that point, you want to sweep side to side. Once you sweep side to side and you're getting a good coating of the agent, that's either going to take either the heat or the fuel away from the fire or even the air, then the fire should be extinguished. Now here are a couple of rules for the fire. Fires are very dangerous. I don't have to tell you that. But be certain that you will not endanger yourself or others when you're trying to fight a fire. If the fire grows beyond the inception stage, the simplest thing to do then is call 911. Evacuate the building. Use your evacuation, your fire drills, your fire evacuation plan, and make sure everyone gets out of the building. You never fight a fire if you don't know what's burning. You may not have the right fire extinguisher, but in most cases you probably will. But inside your facility, that's where hazard communication comes into play really well, because then you know what chemicals are in there. You have your chemical inventory, you have your SDS sheets, and everybody should be trained and familiar on the chemicals that are in the building, especially the hazardous chemicals. So it's a good idea to make sure you review all those things so that you might know what's burning. And if you don't know what's burning, then again, you don't know what extinguisher to use. Never fight a fire if it's spreading rapidly beyond where it started, the inception stage. Well, if the fire extinguisher is used and it's a small fire and you extinguish the fire, that's a good thing. But if it starts to grow and starts to spread, again, it's time to call 911, use your fire evacuation drills. And never fight a fire if you don't have adequate equipment. Never fight a fire if you might inhale some toxic smoke. That smoke inhalation is a problem that firefighters run into. When you have a lot of smoke in the building, it might not be toxic, but even smoke inhalation would need some O2 treatment. But if it is toxic, then it could cause you a serious problem. Never fight a fire if your instincts tell you not to. I talk about this all the time. If you're not comfortable with it, it's probably best just go ahead and evacuate the building and let the fire department come and do their job. Finally, always position yourself where you have an out. If you pull a fire extinguisher down, you pull the pin, and then you activate the squeeze process, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Make sure you have a way out. Don't get into a corner and pull the pin, squeeze the handle, and nothing happens. You always want to make sure you have an exit and everyone else is able to get out of the facility as well. So those are some quick rules for the portable fire extinguisher. Again, it's the OSHA regulation. It comes under 29 CFR 1910-157. Spend some time reading that. Spend some time examining your fire extinguishers. Keep in mind, fire extinguishers have to have an annual inspection on them, which normally is the company that provides them. We'll take care of that inspection for you. But the company itself, someone in your facility, should be checking those fire extinguishers at least once a month. 3 things you need to check. Number 1, make sure you look at the gauge. Make sure it's properly charged. If the needle is in the green zone, then the fire extinguisher is properly charged. Make sure it's not obstructed. Make sure somebody hadn't pushed boxes up against it, or maybe even tool cabinets or some other storage items. Also make sure that it's not damaged. You'll notice that little card that hangs on the side of a fire extinguisher, and it has a purpose. If you see holes punched in it, those holes represent when the company who handles those fire extinguishers or services them, that's when they came and did their annual inspection. You'll see the month and you'll see the year punched out. On the flip side, you'll see there are 12 blank slots. That's for 1 month, each month of the year. Whoever inspects that fire extinguisher to make sure it's charged, make sure it's not obstructed or damaged, needs to initial that card and put the month and the year out beside it. If you initial it and you put the month, that would be good, but the month and year would also be helpful. And those are just some of the quick pointers for portable fire extinguishers. I hope that's been helpful. Just be careful using a fire extinguisher and make sure that people are out of the building, and you should be fine. Thank you and have a good day.